Welcome back, gentlemen. I'm your host, Crazy Nate, and today we are going to part 3 of this epic home studio build. Last time I left you, we were ripping the stage out and the drywall. So today, what we're going to be doing, hi Zelda. Today we're going to be adding electrical, building an epic server closet with Geekhead helping me. That fireplace you just saw, that's getting ripped out because it's disgusting. And you don't want something dirty like a fireplace inside a studio that's going to affect your electronics. So over here we have the server closet that we're going to be ripping out. And here's what it looks like before the chaos begins. Let's go. All right, time to get started. We got Zelda on guard dog duty, and there's Geekhead in here. So first thing we did is we ripped out the stove, and behind it you see dead birds. They have birds that would get stuck behind it, and they just let them die. They wouldn't rescue them. So that's another good reason for the fireplace to go. Also, underneath the windows here, they just had normal 2x4s, and they rotted because they shouldn't be touching the concrete unless they're weather treated. And so I was replacing them with weather treated boards. And those main support beams in the middle, those sagged a little bit, so I had to put these 2x4s in, and I kind of wedged them in. You can see I hammered them into place because they're slowly reducing the tension on that center post, so that way I can fix some of those 2x4s. And yes, I did anchor the bottom treated lumber to the concrete with concrete screws. So I'm just gonna kind of going relaxed here and walking through what's going on. I may pause from time to time. This is a more laid back channel. We're just having fun. So you can see I clearly close these in because this is going to be a flat wall for the future green screen. Eventually in the future I'll have to rip out those little reading nooks from the outside. But for now they're just kind of covering it up, protecting it so the weather doesn't destroy all the insulation and whatnot. Zelda's still doing a great job on guard dog duty. She's kind of curious what we're doing in here. And this is me fishing wire through the roof, and I found this old PVC pipe I was using as like a snake to pull the wire in and out because it's blown in insulation in the top and it's hard to find where the holes are going through. So right where I was just standing, that's going to be a security camera monitor, and so I need electrical to run to that, and then I'm going to run an HDMI cable that will go to the server closet, and you can see the power source for it. And then also the lower part, that's going to be an additional editing bay. And so that's going to need power and internet. A lot of these boxes you see are Ethernet boxes, and some of them are power boxes. Feeding multiple lines because you're going to have another computer editing bay to the left. And let's see what else. And then there's an additional box there that's going to be for backup in case there's an additional running editing bay in the future. So there's potentially 3 editing bays that could be going on here. But for the moment, I just have the 2 editing bays. I got Geekhead to help me come over and set up the server closet, and he is a server expert. So he's giving me some great advice on where the outlet should go, how big the closet should be. And originally, the roof hatch or the attic hatch was in that closet, and we decided to move it over to the closet that I'm standing in on the left because we don't want any of the insulation or stuff in the attic falling into the server closet. Also, if we need to go in and out of the server closet, we don't want to draw dirt in there every time we go in and out. And so he's holding up the drywall as I get the drill gun, learning as I go, trying to figure out how to use the drill gun. I think it was actually in reverse for the first couple of minutes. Feel free to share tips because this is a learn as you go project. But we get the ceiling secured, and then things I'm gonna have in here is camera setups, backup storage drives, basically all the fun things that you need to run your studio. And it is a full-size server rack. One lesson I learned, if you're doing this DIY in your own house, the door for your server closet, if you have a full-size server rack, you probably want to make that door a couple inches taller than your traditional door. If you can go even taller, that'd be great. Once we got the ceiling in place, the next step was we put soundproof insulation in all the walls. I know the walls that you have conditioned airspace on both sides, you don't really need insulation, but that room we are going to put a cooler in the future. Also, it's a noisy server closet, so we were trying to reduce the noise going into the rest of the house, including especially into the studio, because you don't want that server noise going into your video recordings. So now we're just cutting the drywall sheets into place after we already got the soundproof insulation in between it. Got a nice little laser level, help us remember where the studs are. Sorry I didn't film that good in the closet. It is a tight space and it was kind of difficult to get the good camera angles, but you can get the gist of what we're doing here. No more disgusting mouse tracks, and we definitely sanitize that really nice. So that's great. And this is rock wall insulation. And the server rack is going to go in here, and we got soundproof insulation all inside, and he helped drywall all up the ceiling. The attic hatch used to be over there, but we don't want dust going in the server room, so it's over here. This is the DVD wall, soundproof insulation, and then the best insulation we can find. Yeah, it's finally slowly coming together. And that was a blast from the past. Now it's my future editing self. So now we're putting in the R17 insulation, rock wall insulation. And I know that's a little weird that we don't have like wood supports in the back, but this is a temporary solution until we can get time to rip out the little reading nooks in the front and then put some new plywood and siding on it, because you can see it's a little bit wood rotted in the bottom. But the walls that I built are solid like a tank. And that whole section of the house isn't relying on just one section of boards that's been cut through anymore. And I deliberately didn't put a power outlet in between. You see like there's such a huge gap between the two power outlets there. I did that on purpose so that way there's no power outlets where the green screen's going to be. Sorry to the future homeowner if and when I ever sell this house in the future. Now putting in the drywall. This is thicker drywall than your traditional drywall. Don't ask me what the measurements are. I'm not an expert. But this is the flame resistant kind, because you don't want your server claws. Sorry, I got server claws on the brain. You don't want your studio catching on fire. So rock wall insulation is less flammable, I think, than fiberglass from what I've researched. And so is the drywall. So yeah, pretty enjoyable. I'll just shut up and let you watch this for a second because I kind of like it. And I'm back to interrupt you. So this fireplace actually had two fireplaces. It was a fireplace inside a fireplace. Geekhead helped me take out the first fireplace. The second was much lighter, so I could do it by myself. And this is just a temporary solution. I will fix it later on in the future when I rip out the chimney on the outside. At the time, I was thinking I'd put in a nice artificial fireplace at some point in the future, but as time went on, I decided the best solution, hi Zelda, the best solution was to just rip it out and make it a nice clean wall. So that's a temporary solution. Eventually, there will be normal insulation behind it. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. So yeah, I'll let you get back to your awesome music. And this is what it looks like when you fall off your ladder in time-lapse mode. You only got a couple frames. I did survive, obviously. You can see the indent on my back from landing on the floor. Thankfully, it wasn't a serious injury. But yeah, be careful when you're walking up and down ladders with a drill that's not cordless. Another lesson I learned, you can learn from my mistakes. I recommend if you're using the thicker drywall or even having difficulty with a thinner drywall, do this with a partner because it's kind of difficult and you start cutting corners. I was aware that you're supposed to have both ends of the drywall line up with a 2x4, but I thought it wasn't that big of a deal and I thought I could get away with cheating. You can't. Every time the weather expands and contracts, it re-cracks, so I'm going to have to eventually go in from behind and reinforce it so it doesn't flex. But that was just me cutting corners. Another cutting corner that I learned the hard way is I try to use scraps of drywall in order to save as much drywall as possible because I didn't want to waste anything and I didn't want to make a giant landfill pile. But you end up using more resources, I think, with mudding and taping when you use a bunch of little pieces. You'll see when I get to the server closet and the movie closet, I really start using a ton of scraps. Now the bottom step here, you'll see I put a ton of little pieces on the step, but I don't think that's a big deal because it's solid wood behind it. So the drywall's not going to flex. It wasn't a big deal. You probably could have gotten away with just sanding it, not even putting wood or drywall on it, but it's okay. And here we're coming to the end where you can see I started recycling all the scraps of drywall, and that took forever to mud in the future. So future me is telling me don't do that, just use full sheets of drywall, and the scraps are the scraps. But yeah, so thanks for watching, and I am going to try to work on getting the next video out sooner. Had a little emergency on my end and I'm recovering. But thank you for your support, and thank you for watching to the end. I appreciate it, and I hope you're enjoying this journey as much as I am. Thanks for watching. Share a smile. They are contagious.